welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Rye and this is Rye's Reading Corner, and today I'm doing my April wrap-up. So again, if you're new, hello, welcome to my channel. Make sure you press that subscribe button and that notification button. It's super easy and quick and really helps my channel. So as I said before, this is my April wrap-up. So April was kind of a crazy month since I had my child and the very last day of March. So the first 2 weeks of April were like healing and adjusting to a new schedule. So I really read only the last 2 weeks of April, but I killed it and read 8 books in those 2 weeks, which is insane. So how I'm going to break this video down is I'm going to start off with my least favorite books of the month and work my way up to my very favorite book of the month. And I will put all the timestamps down below if you only want to watch my like 3-star reads, 4-star reads, or 5-star reads. So let's start off with my lowest books, which were 3-star reads this month. Okay, so my first 3-star read was Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. This is a thriller story about a married couple that are going on a honeymoon to a really kind of isolated, deserted island, and definitely things are not as what they seem, and someone from the bride's past comes into play here and is kind of stalking her. So I'm gonna not do too much more than that because I think going into thrillers is like kind of, you need to not know much, and I think that's the best way to go. So this book was a little disappointing to me. I found it kind of predictable and it was kind of slow at parts. I was really hoping for more because I really did enjoy 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson, and unfortunately this book just didn't do it for me. I mean, I still did enjoy it, but I almost wish it went in a different direction. I wanted it more, I wanted to do more with one part of it, I'm not going to say, and I was really hoping it went a different way, and it didn't. But it still was good, and I still did enjoy the book. It just definitely is not one of my favorite thrillers, but it wasn't too bad. Next 3-star read was First Impressions by Sally Thorne. This is a romance story. We have our main character, Ruthie. She works at a retirement center, and she's really just kind of happy with the way her life is. Kind of plain, kind of boring type life, kind of just basic and standard and very predictable. But then the retirement owner's son comes and he gets a job there, and to try and prove himself that he can hold down a job, and he's all tattooed. His name is Teddy, and he kind of rocks her world, and it's like a friendship to lovers trope in here. So I only gave this 3 stars. I think part of it is friends to lovers is not my favorite trope. I definitely more prefer enemies to lovers. I thought Ruthie, I didn't really connect with her as a character. I did enjoy Teddy's character and some of the side characters as well, but the main character just didn't really do it for me. Also, this cover, I love the color of it, but the cover I have a huge issues with. In the book, they're never sitting at like separate like benches reading anything. That literally never happens in the story. And also, like I said, Teddy is super tattooed like on his fingers, all over his arms, and in this cover he literally has like his arms, there's no tattoos at all. So I feel like this cover should be for a different book, and that just really confused me. So I mean, it was a really quick read, and it just was not my favorite Sally Thorne books. I did read another book of hers this month that made it to my 5 stars, so this was a tad disappointing for me. Let's move on to my 4-star reads. All right, the first 4-star read for me was a reread. It was an ebook that I did, and it was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I do have a hard copy of this book, but I did read it as a ebook, like I said, and this is about a story about our main character, Jacob. He had witnessed something very strange in the woods, and his father makes him go to counseling to kind of go over it, to help him deal with his grandfather's death. And there is some mysterious things about his grandfather's death, so his counselor suggests going to this orphanage and visiting in another country, I can't remember the country's name, where he said his grandfather grew up, and his grandfather kind of told him and left a message saying he should go visit there. There are some strange things that are in this orphanage that are left behind, like a girl who floats and all these really creepy pictures. This is a fantasy novel with some of history as well during World War II. One thing I love about this book is they have like pictures throughout these books, and the pictures are really eerie and pretty creepy. And that's one of my favorite things about this book is the images that go along with it. This is a series. I've only read the first one. I read this when like it first came out, and so it wasn't a series yet. But I am interested in continuing on Jacob's story and with all of the children from Miss Peregrine's home. All right, my next 4-star read was a book that I got for my birthday, and it was The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I really enjoyed this. The writing in it was so beautiful for me. It was amazing. So I read this one right when I got actually back from the hospital. So this takes place in 1893 in a town they call it New Salem. The old Salem was pretty much burned down with the witches during the Salem witch trials. We have our 3 main characters. They are sisters, and they have kind of gone their separate ways for numerous reasons. And then they have this weird feeling or force that brings them back together. And through this coming together, they are fighting for like women's rights through like witchcraft, and they're trying to, like, there's a lot of mystery and solving some things as well in this story, but it really touches upon fighting for women's rights through witchcraft and feminism, and I really, really enjoyed it. I know some people have DNF'd this recently, I saw on BookTube, but for me, I loved the writing style, and I love the historical fiction part of it because I love learning and reading about the Salem witch trials, and so there is quite a few references to that, and like I said, because they call this town the New Salem, so witches are coming back and they are fighting for women's rights. So literally 2 amazing things. You can't go wrong there. All right, so let's move on to my 5-star read. So my first 5-star read is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the second book in the A Blood and Ash novel series. So this continues Poppy's story after what happened in the first book, and she is traveling with Hawk. And I don't really want to say too much about the plot in this story because it would obviously spoil if you've not read the first one in the series. But the reason I gave this one is a little bit lower of a 5-star than the first one. I do prefer From Blood and Ash a little bit better because I felt the beginning of this was a little slow. I actually started this book, got about 100 pages in, put it down for a little bit and read another book and then picked this back up. But once you get past those 150 pages, it definitely picks up. And I mean, it is a chunker of a book, but I definitely flew through it once I started kind of getting a little bit more into it. The ending of this book is a cliffhanger for sure, and I cannot wait to pick up the next one. I really enjoy Poppy's character. I think she is a badass, and I love Hawk in here. He is just perfection. And even the side characters, Kieran, I think how you pronounce his name, I love him too. Oh my god, absolutely adore him. So I really liked this, and I'm excited to move on to the third one. All right, so the next book is another romance, and it's by an author that I already talked about, and it is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. So for me, this was much better than Second First Impressions. This is the story about Lucy and Josh, and they work at a publishing firm together. Their 2 companies had come together, and they are both like their secretaries kind of to the CEOs of the company, but there is a new job title coming, and they are both running for it, and they both really, really hate and detest each other, but like I said, it's a romance. It is a hate to love, and through that battle they come together and they love each other, and it's just perfect. And the tension in here, the sexual tension, was perfection. I loved the banter between these 2 characters, and I think that's what Second First Impressions lacked for me, is that just that really amazing banter, and that's what I really enjoy in romance stories, and that did this one for me. So this was super good, and I highly suggest you pick it up. All right, my top 2 books of April. So this book, I had planned on starting at the end of April and was going to read it into May to count for the Asian Readathon, but I finished it so quickly because it was so good, and I don't know why I've been waiting on this book because I've had it for a good amount of time, and that is The Henna Wars by Adiba Girdar. I said that wrong. I really apologize. This book was so good. So this is a story about a young girl who is living in Ireland. Her family and herself is from Bangladesh, and she moved here when she was younger. And she has struggled kind of at times growing up in Ireland because she feels like she doesn't fit in and has dealt with racism. So it talks a lot about that in this book as well. Another big aspect of this book is her coming to terms with her sexual identity. So this is an LGBTQIA+ book. So definitely for Pride Month next month, you should be picking this up. She comes out to her family that she is a lesbian, and she is not necessarily perceived by her parents as well, because in their culture in Bangladesh, it is really looked down upon to being in the LGBTQIA+ and somewhere on there. So it does not go over well. However, she meets this girl at a wedding, and then they end up having a competition at her school, and they both open henna businesses for their business class, and they are at a competition as well. At the same time, they are falling for each other. So this has a lot to deal with self-discovery, self-identity, sexual identity, racism. It was so good. It looks like a chunker of a book, but it reads really fast. It's YA, and the font is pretty big on the pages. Like I said, I read this in less than 24 hours. The cover is absolutely gorgeous, and on the inside, the writing is like a gold, rose gold, pink foil writing. It was perfection. This one is actually now going on display next to Felix Ever After because I loved it so much. All right, and my favorite book of April, and a new favorite, probably will be on my top books of 2021, and that is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. This book killed it for me. Aiden Thomas is perfection. So this is a Peter Pan retelling, and you're probably like, wait, you said you don't care for retellings. Well, I'm gonna take that back because this story was everything. This story is about Wendy, her brother and her go missing, and I think it's 6 months later, she shows back up in the woods and does not remember anything from those last 6 months that that has happened to her. And then all of a sudden, Peter Pan comes, and they have to solve the mystery and try and figure out what happened to her brothers, as well as where are all these missing children going that are disappearing in her neighborhood. So this is just not your basic retelling. It is a mystery as well, because we have kids that are disappearing. So it's a little bit of a thriller-esque as well, and I think that's what I loved so much about this. I love the relationship that Wendy had with Peter Pan. It just was, I wanted to ship them so bad. It was perfection. The cover itself is absolutely gorgeous. It actually matches my nails. The inside covers are pink, and then it's just this beautiful blue with pink on the writing. This book was just, it was everything, and I read this so quick. I wish I could literally read it again for the first time. And if you liked Cemetery Boys, or if you didn't even like Cemetery Boys, still pick this up, because Aiden Thomas just killed it with this book, and it was everything. Please pick it up and read it. So for me, April was really a good month, even though it was my lowest amount of books I've read in a month. For what happened and what was going on this month, I'm really, really happy with it. So please let me know down below if you've read any of these books, and also let me know what was your favorite book you read in the month of April. So again, if you are new to my channel or haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you press that subscribe button and that notification button so you never miss any of my content. Also, if you want to be my friend on any of my other social media platforms, all that information is linked down below. So stay kind, loves, and I'll see you next time. Bye!